Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chef Night. Thank you for joining.
Cooking.
Well, tonight we're doing something totally different, something we've never done before. Soup.
Yeah, we're making soup.
Year 5, session 4, session 3.
Session 3,
Soup.
soup. How to make soup, right? Soup is the fundamentals of cooking.
It
And
is.
It was cold last week.
We're
I know.
still in winter at 81 degrees, so figure it out, right?
The key is we're making it before it gets to be 100.
That
so
is
that's
correct.
probably a good thing. So tell us about
Well, one of the things we wanted
Lucky
to do,
Leprechaun.
well, the
Article?
Lucky Leprechaun soup is the potato soups, you know, the leek is so lucky for everybody.
Nice. Into you.
See? So one of the things we
See?
did want to,
No, let's see. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So one of the things we wanted to focus on during this season was what are ingredients that you don't typically use? You see them in your grocery store, you use them for one thing, but then you don't use them again. So today, we're going to be focused on utilizing leeks and how to utilize leeks. Leek is a vegetable. It's in the onion family. It's a milder flavor. Beth just tried it. So it's similar to a green onion as a taste. If you were to eat it raw, has a very, very sweet profile when you add it to your dishes. So today, adding it into our soup is going to add an elevated flavor.
You could talk.
That you go, adds an extra sweetness to it.
Into the disses, but not the kisses.
That's right.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
So I love that because I would never really ever buy a leek. I don't know about you guys out there, but do you ever just purchase a leek, decide to put that in your dish? I just think no.
If
We
it's
always
not
grab
in
an
the
onion.
recipe, yeah. If it's
I-
not in the recipe, you're not thinking
You're not
about
right.
it.
sure what it is?
That's true.
This
It
is
does
true.
look different. So, all right, so we're gonna make some soup tonight, which is fantastic. But then this Irish cheddar biscuit, tell me about that.
So it's an Irish cheddar cheese, and we're
Okay.
gonna make a cheddar biscuit using the Irish cheddar cheese. The Irish cheddar cheese is very pungent and it has a sharpness to it
Mhm.
that's almost spicy to eat. So as our crew likes to be spicy,
Let's do it.
we're gonna go ahead and put that together.
Perfect.
Biscuit was something that I figured that we could do that would complement the bowl of soup
Perfect.
without taking a 6-hour course, right?
Absolutely.
First and foremost, we want to make sure that our mise en
Mise en place,
place
yeah.
is all in order.
Let's do it.
We're going to want to make sure that our oven is on at 425 degrees. We're going to want to make sure that we have a large enough soup pot because we are going to be making a good amount of soup. I have a little pan back here. This is going to be for our honey herb butter that we'll brush over our biscuits when we're done. I have a lined cookie sheet for our biscuits. If you have parchment paper, I would prefer that you use the over the foil because the parchment won't burn or potentially burn the bottom of your biscuit. Since the aluminum foil is conduct the heat from the oven, so that we're going, because if we have to flip the biscuit, we will,
Okay.
right? Because we don't want it to be super dark on one side and then not baked enough for the top.
Comment, because I always notice that if you do put it on the foil, that it does get more cooked on the bottom. So it's a heat conductor versus what if I just put it in the pan?
You
Same
could
thing?
use the pan, would be just fine getting it off the pan if it's not heavily greased or oiled, pan sprayed, whatever your prefer method to grease that pan. Getting it off is the hard part.
Okay.
With the parchment paper, it allows the biscuit to be released nice and easily, and as your favorite, easy cleanup, right?
Yes, I like the easy
So
cleanup.
that's really what it's all about.
Right.
And then our other mise en place ingredients, our leeks, I've broken it down pretty small. I'll show you how to break this guy down as well. I've got some potatoes. We are using a Yukon Gold potato today. You can peel them. You don't have to peel them. I choose not to peel them because the skin's soft enough that you don't really recognize it when you're eating it.
Can you show us those pieces so we could see how small you made them? Just because they're gonna cook, we need.
Yeah,
to
what's
cook
that
faster,
going?
right?
We're getting a weird
We got a
echo.
mute.
Uniform, right? So,
We got a mute around here.
I mean, to show you specifically,
Okay.
we
let's
can
see.
do that, right? So take your potato. I've already washed these. I'm going to cut it in half. So depending on the thickness here, if we're going to cut it in half again, in order to get this size, we're going to have to cut it in half one more time. And then we're going to break it down to the size that we want it to be. And then when we turn it this way to make the dice, that will determine how big that we actually want it. So a little cube of potato like this is gonna take anywhere around 12 to 13 minutes to boil, so it's a pretty quick cooking process. So that's our potato. The leek, you're gonna be you're gonna cut off the end here, the root piece. And then you're only gonna wanna come up till probably when you start to see it turning more green. So when you get in and it's still pretty heavily green, you're gonna wanna trim down a little more. Let's see when we get inside here.
Let's see how green it is in there.
So you see how it's not so as green as this here, right?
Right, right.
I mean, so see how less yellow it is in there? That means that these are gonna be harder to chew and they're not gonna cook as well as what we want them to.
Makes sense.
This is gonna be more like lettuce-like, so it'll wilt a whole lot as opposed to this will stay true to that onion type of texture.
Interesting.
Mhm. So then, always wanna rinse these guys off. Because dirt will hide in there. And we don't want dirt in our soup. So then from here, what I'll do is I'll just rip it straight down the middle like such. So that way we can get a smaller piece there.
Therein
So
lies the dirt.
that's it.
But that's interesting. Who thought there would be dirt inside? Like, I wouldn't think that.
You'd think that it would grow tight enough together.
Right, that it
that
wouldn't have the
wouldn't
dirt
allow the
inside?
dirt to get in.
Yeah.
And then
Interesting.
we're just gonna go down and julienne like such.
Great.
Go ahead, caller. Feed it to the rabbits. I wouldn't use it. I mean, you
Well, you
could.
really don't want to feed the rabbits at your house, otherwise you're gonna have a lot of rabbits. So I don't know about
And
that
that's
answer.
true.
Then you're gonna have rabbit, you know what?
Nothing. I mean, if you wanted to make vegetable stock, you could throw it in a pot of water and make some vegetable stock with it. That'd be a good use of it. I typically don't use them. I'm using just this piece here due to the dishes that we're making.
Good to know.
All right. So first, we're going to want to get our bacon rendering. And when we render bacon, what that means is to extract the fat from it, right?
Right.
So same thing. What are we doing? How big do we want these? This is going to be for two purposes. We're going to render it in our soup pot so we can get the fat to put that fat flavor into that bacon flavor into our soup. But
Okay.
then we're going to remove the crispy bacon pieces to use as garnish on top of our soup when we're done.
Purposes.
Yep.
I like it.
So I'm thinking in my head of the garnish, right? What's it gonna look like? So if we were
Pieces.
to render this, it's gonna come out to be real tiny, right? So I
Right.
want them to be slightly bigger. So we're gonna cut into about 1/2 inch or 1 inch chunks. So that way these will still be a really good
Right.
piece of bacon when it's nice and crispy. So then that way when we put it on the top of our soup as our garnish, you'll notice that nicely, right? And then it won't
Right.
be all soggy. So if we kept it in, the bacon would just return back to a texture like this and lose its crispiness. So,
Totally agree.
so
Yep,
we want
don't
to
want that.
start in there first. So let's get our pan on high.
Oh, so you're actually gonna put it in the pot?
Yep, that's
Oh,
how
that's
this is how we're gonna start. So we're
Gotcha.
gonna render in this. If you were making zuppa discana, the Olive Garden's infamous soup, you would have 17 different pots up here, all doing different things, when you don't want to do that. So when you make soup, you want to use one pot for a reason, so you capture all the flavor in there, right? So that's a big piece to that.
So because you have a smaller surface on the bottom and you don't have like a big cookie sheet, probably best to get it all separated.
Well, it'll render better because then each individual flavor and all that fat will be released, as opposed to it's just breaking it apart so that way we can get the bacon pieces
Right.
for what we want them for. So as I was saying, making soup's the fundamentals of cooking. If you learn how to make soup and make good soup, then anything else you can do in the kitchen and not be intimidated by it. Because this has all, it has a very well-rounded.
Right.
So like right now, we're sauteing essentially, right? We'll be taking this baking fat to make a. So there again, we're learning another step and we're utilizing else. So again, is fat mostly bacon for our fat portion of it. So roux is what you use to make your turkey gravy. Well, most people, a lot of people like to cornstarch their turkey gravy because they're afraid of making the roux, right?
Mhm.
All roux is like I said, 50% flour, 50% fat. You can use any fat that you'd like, and it all depends on what you're doing. Typically, you don't use oil. You can, in a pinch, to do so, not a big deal.
Right.
But typically or traditionally, you're using butter to make roux. When you make roux, you want to cook it a little bit. So as soon as when we get to that stage, I'll show you what that
Perfect.
looks like,
Now,
right?
we've done that before, but it's
We
good
made
to
lots,
remind.
yep, we made
remind
it
us.
lots of times. And when you make roux for a gravy or for a soup, you always want to add your liquid to the roux.
Right.
You don't want to add your roux to the liquid because then it'll be all clumpy and there'll be little roux balls and you can't get those out.
No one wants roux balls.
No
in
one
there.
wants roux balls.
Perfect.
So while you're stirring that, Beth, I'm gonna grab a plate with some paper towel on it so we can pull our bacon out when it's ready to go.
Just like we typically would
Just like
if
we
you're
would,
making it
yep.
any other way. Want to drain that fat.
Well, and right, as it dries, essentially, that's
Right.
when the crispiness kicks into play.
Exactly.
So we're gonna let that just do its thing. We'll keep an eye on it.
Perfect.
And we'll just stir it periodically. This is gonna render down for a few minutes,
Okay.
probably about 4 minutes. The more you stir, the more you stir it up, the more each side gets crispy, renders it faster, right? So we can periodically stir, keep an eye on it, and everything will be okay. What we do want to do is we want to get to the biscuit portion.
Yes, that's probably gonna be, that list of ingredients is long. We gotta get going.
Okay, so when you're baking, you must pull out your measuring cups and your measuring spoons because baking is science. If you
It's
don't,
exact.
if you don't do it, you could mess it up royally. And I do it all the time, so.
Messes it up. Hmm. I might have those in here.
Perfect.
For these little
Yep,
guys?
that's
Yeah,
it.
they're all rinsed off.
Okay. All right, so what we want to do is we want to get a large enough bowl
Okay.
that we're going to be able to mix in, right? We're going to put all of our dry ingredients in first because we want to whisk those together to incorporate them all before we start adding our butter and our cheese. So for this, we're going to be using 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour.
While we're doing that, I've always wondered, is there any difference in flour?
Absolutely. Wheat flour, almond flour, all-purpose flour, bleached flour. So there's a ton of different flours and they're all used for different purposes.
Okay,
This is all-purpose, which means you can make bread, you can make cakes, you can make biscuits, make pancakes.
so always pay attention to the flour, type of flour that you're putting in.
Yeah, if you're using like an enriched, bleached flour has its own purposes. A lot of people started moving towards the almond flour for their keto diet. So that's in a lot of keto stuff is using the almond flour.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the flavor, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, that's a very different, that would be a very different flavor.
It's very different. They make some rice flours. There's some other gluten-free options for people that that need a gluten-free option. That's
Which
a
is
big thing.
great.
Yeah, and I mean, just how much that market is taken off because celiac is a serious thing.
Mhm.
If you have celiac disease, the slightest little bit of gluten messes you up pretty bad.
So if I had that and I wanted to make this, I would use the gluten-free version.
Gluten-free flour,
And
yeah.
it was all-purpose flour, gluten-free all-purpose, or,
I don't know if it's all-purpose gluten-free.
okay,
I want to say it's not. I think that it's a specific flour.
type of flour.
Correct.
So you may end up getting a slightly different result.
Correct. See that bacon rendering up very nicely. And as we cut them in the chunks like that, then they'll pretty much stay in that
Oh, yeah,
size, right?
that's awesome.
Yeah, so if we made them smaller, they would be tiny little bacon bits, but we want a nice bite of bacon,
Absolutely.
right? Okay,
Makes
this,
perfect sense.
then we're gonna need a tablespoon of baking powder. This is where the science kicks in.
The exact science. Out there, let's see. Okay, how about you grilled bacon fat?
You can use
Butter in the biscuit.
You can use in the biscuit. The biscuit's not gonna fluff up as much due to that. Because of the consistency of the bacon fat as opposed to
The butter.
butter, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it just wouldn't be as puffy,
Correct.
but same flavor, different flavor, maybe a little different flavor.
It'll give you that bacon flavor in there, right? So that'll be in there.
Okay,
But it's also, the other part too is when making biscuits, you want cold butter because you want the butter to almost make like a scone. So when you use cold butter, we're just gonna be mashing it together to create that, as opposed to if it was melted butter like a bread or a cake
right.
is different. So there's that technique piece that's so
With the
finicky.
baking.
Right.
Because it is cold butter or warm butter or melted butter, it creates a different result.
Absolutely, right? So what are we trying to accomplish, right?
Good to know. Those are all great little tips because it really, when you're baking, specifically what the recipe calls for is exactly how you need to do it.
The only way you can change things is like if you want to throw raisins in, or like we're gonna add cheese. So the cheese is gonna add a slight bit of moisture, but it's not gonna overcompensate for the amount of liquid that we're
Right.
needing anyway.
Got it.
So I think our bacon here,
Think we're good?
it looks really nice, crispy.
I mean, who doesn't love bacon? Just saying.
It's
It's
quite
pretty
delicious, exactly. But even so, the bacon fat, I always save my bacon fat because it's kitchen gold. I use it for all sorts of stuff. I mean, when I cook my eggs, some people butter toast with it. Wouldn't go that far, but.
But to each his own.
Hey.
We don't, I know we've talked about this before and we always say to save it, but we typically don't save it, but I get it. I mean, it would work great.
Throw
if
it in
you're
your
cooking
beans.
eggs. Yeah.
I mean, if you know, like you're gonna be cooking throughout the week, where you can use it, save it. You
Mhm.
can cool it and keep it in a container and it'll sit for a long time, so it holds and it's versatile, right? So you
Yep.
can do a lot with it. So we got our dry ingredients in our bowl here. We're gonna wanna add our. Where's our spoons there? We better measure this.
Please, we
This-
need ours to turn out.
This one, so the main ingredients, the baking powder, the baking soda, those are the ones that you want them to be precise
Okay,
with the flour.
okay.
Now that we're adding spices to it, this one we can play with, right?
Because it's
So if we
about the
want to be
flavor.
heavier on this flavor, we want heavier on this flavor, that will determine this portion of that. So when you're doing the baking powder, so like the butter, the baking powder, the liquid, those want to be exact of what the recipe is. Otherwise, you're not going to end up with what you were hoping for.
Slight variation.
So that was our onion powder. And then our garlic.
Interesting to see onion powder in a biscuit, right? I mean, to me, I think that seems different than I would have thought.
Well, I mean, Red Lobster mastered it pretty good, right? So those herb cheddar biscuits,
Had
you're
onion
gonna have
powder.
a ton of onion powder in there,
I
absolutely.
can honestly say I've never had that. Have you guys ever had that? Red Lobster
The Red
biscuit?
Lobster, yeah, the cheddar biscuits.
cheddar biscuits?
Delicious.
Okay.
Not Red Lobster, just the biscuits.
Just the biscuits. Forget the Red Lobster. Just go for the
Don't
biscuits.
confuse me with that one. So now that we have our dry ingredients in a bowl,
Okay.
a pinch of salt.
And a pinch of salt. Salt. And then we do the unsalted butter.
Yep. So whisk, reason being is we want to incorporate these ingredients well.
Perfect.
And like I said, it's because of that baking powder, baking soda, you want to make sure that that's mixed in at like an equal ratio to the flour.
Mhm.
So I just take a little whisk to it. That way it's breaks it up and spreads it through there. So that way you should end up with a nice formulated biscuit dough like that. Dry ingredients only, right? Now we want to add some of our cheese.
Which we already have prepared.
So cheese grater, super easy, right? We all know this. This is going to come in handy for our next trip.
And don't use any of the microblading or any of the small ones. We want it to be in the bigger size, not in these little.
If you wanted it to be thinner than what this is here, yes, you could use this one. I
Okay.
like this other one because then you're going to get that cheddar cheese
Flavor,
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
really having it disappear more into the,
Correct, into the biscuit.
biscuit
Yeah,
itself.
you'll lose that flavor.
Okay.
So with it being in this size like this of a grape, then that way you're going to get that
Makes
bite and
sense.
go, oh, okay, that's cheddar cheese, right? As far as different cheeses,
Or what could we put in here if we didn't want cheese, in other words?
leave the cheese out.
So you could make them, so just, the cheese could just be left out of this particular biscuit.
Yes.
Is there anything else you could add to if you wanted to make it slightly different than just a plain biscuit? But no cheese if I don't love cheese.
We can throw a jalapeno in there, right?
Ooh, like a jalapeno biscuit?
Like a jalapeno biscuit, yep.
Would you do it at the same time as you did?
I would
putting the
add it
cheese
when
in?
I add the wet ingredients. Ultimately, it wouldn't really matter because as you start mixing it, it's going to incorporate anyway.
Okay.
So the main, right, with the dry ingredients, mix those, and then we start adding all the other ingredients into that.
Good to know.
Yes. Kind of fold this in. And then we butter with that handy dandy cheese grater.
Oh, cheese grater and butter.
Mhm.
Interesting. And I was gonna say, we haven't done that yet.
So this is a little kitchen trick. Because then now
Oh,
You
I've
have
seen it done that
nice-
way. This is a great tip right here.
this is an easier way that we're gonna be able to mix the butter without have to mash it in if we had giant cubes, right?
Right, no,
So the
but it's still
recipe is
cold,
cut
so.
it in cubes, and you wanna make sure that it is cold when you do this, otherwise it will.
This is actually a great little hack. I love it.
Watch your fingers.
Definitely something we haven't done.
Wanna pull the butter out of here.
That is your liquid gold too. I love the butter. The butter adds so much to
Absolutely, right?
this dish, yes.
So
A
we're
little
ba-
stickier than
the
cheese.
cheese for
but-
sure. But and so like we should have done half and mixed it and then did the other half.
Okay,
Just because now I'm kind of getting to that same spot that we didn't want to get to. That's why I lightly started mixing it in there. So that way we can just incorporate it. And all you're trying to do is make crumble. So this is like the same concept as making streusel. Right,
Okay.
having that cold butter.
so I haven't really made streusel.
Little streusel. So now
How's
we have,
everybody doing in the audience? Are you guys keeping up? It's kind of a lot of tedious things. Nope, we're not yet. We're waiting. We're gonna hit our next phase here.
yeah, we gotta
We gotta get this.
mix
in the
our
middle.
biscuit and then we can cocktail time.
Exactly. Although I'm sure someone out there has started that. Show us your cocktail if you've started it.
All right, so then here, you're gonna wanna make a little hole like our pasta.
Okay.
Okay, so this is where our liquid's gonna go into. We need our buttermilk. If you grab us that
Yeah.
buttermilk there.
Buttermilk? You say buttermilk on it. Is that
That's
buttermilk?
it, yeah.
Like, whoa.
Sorry, watch out.
Watch out. Take my hand out.
Yeah, my hand.
Okay, we have buttermilk without a label.
That's right, teeny tiny.
Teeny tiny buttermilk? Okay.
All right, let's see. This one's gonna call for 1 cup. So this one we can start stirring with one of our spoons. And again, it's gonna get messy, so we're gonna wanna basically take from the outside and just incorporate and work that in till it becomes that dough type texture. So with biscuit though, you wanna be careful that you're not over mixing, just like with our, if you were to make cornbread. So all we're doing is just incorporating that buttermilk into that so that way you have that paste-like
Mhm.
and there's still slight little crumble of the dry flour.
Who out there has made biscuits before? Like something that we really don't make from scratch because there's so many options, but I'm sure they're so much better this way.
Well, when you do them like this, you get to make them however you want to. So if you want to go sweet or you want to go savory, right?
Right, that's
So it all
true.
depends on what kind of biscuit you're looking for. Pop open, boop,
Yeah.
Pillsbury. So then now that it's mixed together, we're just gonna kind of work it a little bit more so we
Now
can,
it's starting to look a lot more like dough, like the dough.
yeah, so that way we can capture that dry flour that was in the
Mhm.
bottom and that we don't have any dry flour pockets in our biscuits.
Right.
Okay. So we got that there. Now that you see it's got that nice consistency
Yeah.
where it's wet, but it's not too wet, right? And it's not too dry. So I'm just looking to see if there's any of those dry pockets of flour in there that we want to make sure that we incorporate in here. We got a question here.
Oh, we've got a love all kinds of biscuits, and the cheese is the best. And I can't read who said that.
Cheese biscuits. Do the bisque with homemade the red-eye gravy with country ham. Yeah,
That's a
there
good
you
one.
go.
Thanks for sharing, you guys. I think that's awesome.
So now we got that. We're gonna let that rest for just a moment.
Perfect. So we're good on the
We're
buttermilk?
good on the buttermilk.
Okay. Perfect.
Buttermilk biscuits are your favorite? They
Oh,
are.
love that.
With some old country gravy, some chorizo gravy. Oh,
Oh,
pencil me in.
we
Yeah.
had some chorizo gravy the other night. It was
Pencil me
amazing.
in. I'm in for that. Okay, now let's get our soup going. Because it's gonna take
These just have to sit.
just for a second. Yep.
Okay.
So we're gonna get our oil back on.
Okay. So we leave all the oil in
Saute
there.
the fat. Yeah. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this into our roux, right?
Oh, that's right.
So we're gonna saute with it, and then we're gonna
Okay.
move our ingredients, make our roux, and then we're gonna be able to add our liquid.
All right.
So,
So is it
this going.
true or false that making soup just takes a long time?
so the
So
reason it
how do we
takes a
take
long
that?
time is because we want to simmer. Okay, and that's the process of duration. Simmer is a low boil.
Right, getting everything cooking together, cooking
Yeah.
all the way.
And when I say low, I mean very, very low, just so it's barely bubbling, right?
Right,
Once you turn that up a little bit more, then there's the rolling boil. And we don't want that because if we're using a clear liquid, then your soup will become cloudy.
right.
So we want to keep it to be clear. So I'm gonna add a handful of
So
these
that's
guys.
the time consuming, putting everything together, chopping it up, getting it in there, and then letting it be on the low simmer.
And the reason you want it to sit and reduce on that low is because that's what creates the flavor profile.
Right.
But how much time is time? Jeff?
How much
Like, if
time?
are we like on a 1 hour?
That's why we're making an easy soup that you can get done in 1 hour.
No way.
Way.
So soups don't have to take more than 1 hour,
That's true.
right?
Absolutely.
All
It
right,
can be
because-
pretty quick.
And wait a minute, what about, look, pan over to that guy right there, crock pot.
Can you
Now,
make it all and then put it in there?
So
Or let
you
that
could,
flow?
yes, you could saute all your ingredients and then add your liquid and put it on low and go grocery shopping or go to
do what
yoga.
you do. Hey,
Hit yoga,
when,
Yeah.
come back and soup will be ready.
when people come to my house, they normally walk in and they go, "Oh, Steve's cooking," and I'm not doing anything but crock pot,
It's a good way to do it.
right?
Right.
So just make sure everyone knows we're helping them now, but we could bring it, like we go, woo, stretch it out.
Absolutely.
Crock pot.
We'll
Yeah.
point out when you can put it in at that stage of the process
So
tonight.
like, yeah, after we would make our roux is when we would be able to put it in the crock pot. I would add all the liquid in first,
Mhm.
and then you could just turn it on low and let it slowly go in the crock pot. The roux is gonna be able to thicken it as it comes up, right? We wanna make sure that in the event you're gonna go the crock pot method, you wanna make sure that your consistency isn't gonna get too thick as it continues to cook.
Right.
Right, and that's one of the biggest pieces. So all we're doing here is we're just sauteing these and sweating them down so that way our celery is soft, our leeks are soft, and our onions are soft. Typically, by the time that our onion is translucent, we can't see it anymore for the most part. We're at a good point. Our celery will be soft at that point. So if you saw, I made the celery a lot smaller than the onions and the leeks, because we want the flavor to be there, but you don't want to really notice that they're there, right? So while these sweat up, go ahead and put together our little cocktail here.
Yeah, let's do it. We know that I'm gonna make a face on this one.
No.
We're gonna see. I'm not
No,
really a
you
whiskey
won't.
bourbon girl, but
Okay.
who's whiskey?
So-
Who are the whiskey fans out there? Whiskey, bourbon.
So there's Kentucky whiskey and then there's bourbon, right? So they're two
Two
different
different things.
things.
Okay.
Very
is
similar,
this?
just slightly different.
Kentucky bourbon.
This
whiskey.
is bourbon whiskey, correct.
And what, like, tell me, what's the difference?
I want to say it's how it's produced essentially.
So like how is it fermented?
Fermented, yep.
So it must be the aging
There's a
process.
smaller process here. I also believe that has to do with temperature. So the temperature in which it is fermenting has a contributor into that as well.
any of our people out there experts in this that want to put in the
Some
chat? all the
whiskey
different whiskey,
aficionados.
bourbon, so that we all kind of get educated here. And then who loves whiskey? Are there everybody whiskey lovers, bourbon? It's
Put it in
like
the
more
chat.
popular now.
It's become a thing.
It
I
has
think,
become a thing.
I think people have kind of recognized it a little bit more. With making like a smoked old fashioned or doing something, you know, putting like grapefruit into a Manhattan. So
Yeah,
there's lots of different things and little tricks and tips that people are utilizing a bourbon for cocktails. Yeah.
exactly. And you really, you know, and now when you go out to dinner, you see these bartenders, they're not just pouring a drink anymore.
Oh,
They are
no.
out there.
They're
It's flat out
creating
going on and they are creating.
creating
Yes.
cocktails. Yeah.
It's a whole,
It's fascinating
thing.
how just in the last 2 years that the cocktail world has really kind of blown up,
it
right?
has. It's changed a lot. And there's so many things that people have made and done differently with them, which makes it, you know, fun to go out.
So what we're doing is we're just peeling off our mint leaves.
And that smells amazing.
I'm gonna go a little heavier on the mint for Beth, just so we don't see the
Because
face
we
that
know.
she's talking
I
about.
like that.
Um,
Oh, someone's hubby loves bourbon. And we went to the Bourbon Trail, a few years ago in Kentucky. That's awesome.
that is cool.
That sounds like it would be a
Super
lot of fun.
fascinating, yeah.
Probably learned a lot about bourbon then. That's great.
Yeah, I did a bourbon tasting with Jack Daniels and learned a ton about it.
I like doing anything like a wine tasting, you learn a lot about
Absolutely.
different.
And when
wines
it's fascinating, right?
It
So the
is.
process. All right, so we got our mint in our glasses. We're gonna need some simple syrup.
And if you don't have simple syrup, you can also Google it and make it.
Equal parts water to regular granulated sugar.
So easy to just make at home.
So simple syrup. Then we're going to muddle. We want to break up that mint
But you
and-
really can
and-
start smelling that even more once you start doing that.
and release those oils in there. So that's that flavor profile we'll be able to get in our mint julep today.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Those are ready for some ice for those guys.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Fill it up. Looking great.
You can see we're not caramelizing, right?
Right, but they're getting more translucent.
Absolutely. So when you're making soup, depending on what you're doing, you typically don't over caramelize. You
Right.
do want to make sure that the heat's hot enough that we are extracting the sugars at a rapid pace.
Mhm.
But we're not trying to caramelize. Especially for this dish here, we want that soup to be creamy white color,
Right.
right? All right. Then we'll add our bourbon to our mint julep here. The history of the mint julep derby is the drink of choice there for the horse
And there
race.
probably is something that came up,
Yeah,
started there, I would think. I mean, Kentucky, like our audience has said, they've done the bourbon walk in
Mhm.
Kentucky, so I'm sure they're known for a lot of the bourbon. Mm.
Whoa.
That it?
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Plug your
folks.
nose and run.
Okay. Woo! Okay,
All right,
cheers,
cheers.
everybody. It still burns going down. I don't know how people drink them. every day. I mean, some people come to our house and just drink the bourbon, but wow. It is strong.
All right, woo, is right.
That's
Hello,
a lot.
hello. Oh, you love that one around here. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make our
Okay.
roux. We need to get our flour. We're gonna add a little butter. So what we're doing is we're gonna push all of our veggies to one side,
Okay.
just so we can get the bacon fat to fall out of the vegetables. So as you see, we can get that fat there. We're gonna add just a touch of butter so we can make a little more roux. But you can see how, as we move it to the side there, that all that bacon fat starts to release into the dish.
Oh, I hear that Wendy says she's never acquired a taste for the alcohol, unfortunately. This is a tough one for me too.
Well, for the next couple of classes, I'm putting together some mocktail options.
Oh, that's a good
So we
idea.
can do some mocktails and then what preferred liqueur choice or alcohol would go with those mocktails. So
Oh, that's a great idea because you know what? I think it's becoming more and more popular too to still want to go out and have a cocktail, but just no alcohol in it.
well, so the mocktail is again, and just in the last, I'd say 2 years is where it's really starting to bloom.
And it's not just a sugary drink.
That's prison juice. What are you talking about? Yeah, where we're doing. Oh, so Steve was saying that by us marinating fruits to then create cocktails with that marinated fruit. Right.
Or even dishes. And they do a lot of like we talked about, which we were gonna do is, and coming up soon is gonna be like something with pears that's more popular and they're doing different things with pears in either dishes or in cocktails or mocktails.
Mhm. So okay, so as you can see,
How we're thickening
see
that.
how the roux kind of tightens, but then it falls. So like if I put it together like this, it forms and then it releases again.
Yep.
We want to add a little more flour, not a whole lot, but just a tiny bit more so we can soak up some of that. Otherwise, that fat will sit on the top of your
soup.
stew. Yep.
Gotcha. So we're basically trying to get that incorporated in so we don't have a layer of fat.
Right. So then now that we have the mixture mixed, the butter and the flour,
Mhm.
we're gonna cook it for a little bit. If
Right.
you cook it it's like 2 to 3 minutes, it's considered a blonde roux, so it's very light and pale in color.
Mhm.
If you cook it for like 5 or 8, 10 minutes, depends on your temperature, your heat, it'll become a brown roux. And then if you continue to cook it and 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 cook it, and it becomes almost black, so it's very, very dark brown, darker than this right here. That is a dark roux, and this is what color the roux is that's used in Cajun cooking.
Well, yeah, you can usually smell it too.
Smells like burnt
So
charcoal.
we're trying to go with the more of the light
Or,
version.
yep,
the
of
blonde.
that beige color, yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna want to add,
Amazing how you transform it to this from where we started, right?
yep. Pepper. This is our jalapeno peppers. The recipe we called for
Oh,
serrano.
we had to let the bourbon cool down before you drink
Oh,
it.
before we sample it?
Yeah, so that's a good one too.
So now that we've incorporated the kick to it, right, we added jalapenos to this one. The Serrano's Instacart loved us, so we went ahead and just stuck with the texture of the chili. So the jalapeno is not going to be as hot as the Serrano, but also the flavor profile of the Serrano is going to be, in my opinion, a lot better than the flavor of a jalapeno. to me, a jalapeno is very mild in taste, almost like a bell pepper kind of. Where the
Okay.
serrano has more of an actual chili type flavor. It
And I
hits
think in this round, we gave everyone the jalapeno,
everyone the jalapeno.
even though we tried to get the serrano.
Yep.
Sometimes, it's hard, maybe in some of the stores, it's not labeled right. And what Daniela and I, our team members, were looking at was we just Googled it and we looked at the size and the shape of it, and we knew we had the wrong one later. So that was kind of interesting that you can find out, even if it's not labeled correctly in the store.
Right. So then from here, we're gonna wanna add our chicken stock. Smell that jalapeno now, don't
Yeah,
you?
I do.
So we can whisk this if you'd want. You saw how
All
easily
right, I
it
did
smooths out
try
pretty
the-
good.
The bourbon a little cooler.
The mint
and
julep a little
definitely-
better.
Mhm. Definitely better. So thank you for that tip.
Now we're gonna add our potatoes. Remember, we're gonna be adding heavy cream, so this isn't our done soup yet, right?
Right.
So we're gonna be adding more liquid. We're also gonna be monitoring this and watching this. So as it starts to heat up and come up to temperature, that's when it's gonna start to thicken a little bit more. Also, as the potatoes are gonna cook, it's gonna release the starch. That's gonna help
Thicken
thicken
it
up
up.
the soup as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as it goes, so that way we can make sure that if we gotta add some more water or chicken stock, we can go ahead and do so. Because our cream is going to be added at the end. If we add it now, chances of us breaking that cream and separating it are greater than if we were to wait. So we want to always add the cream later.
Last- Yeah, later when it's, especially when the potatoes are a little bit softer, maybe when they're almost,
When they're
soft
just
or-
about done. Yep.
okay. Makes good sense. And what are we still on? We're still on kind of a medium heat.
Yep. We're on a medium heat, so it can just come up to temp. And we'll just, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that so we can see and monitor. All right, so as that's doing its thing, we're gonna take our flour. We're gonna need a nice working surface for our biscuits.
You want another different board? What are we
I
gonna
just
do?
on the counter should be fine.
Oh, on the counter? Okay.
Make sure our surface is dried and cleaned up. We weren't working with any raw meats today besides the bacon, and potentially you could just eat that out of the package. I wouldn't recommend it. I like it crispy. Most
Crispy
people
is
like
so
it
much
crispy.
better.
But you can do
So
that.
what are we prepping for? Our biscuits?
We want to put some thyme in our soup right now, actually.
Okay.
So that way we can
Start working the flavors.
Yeah. So typically I would just take this and just throw it in there. But, or I would tie it up in a bundle and make a little bundle for it.
So always want to get the sticks out.
Yeah, you don't have to, you can pull them out later, which works, right? But just for the sake of what we're doing, we're just gonna wanna try to take the leaves off of the stems. This one that seems like we might just have to throw them in there because they're so tiny. So utilizing fresh thyme is so good. That's such a good flavor.
Absolutely. And again, I think something we've talked about over the last few years is the fresh herbs,
By far,
By
much
so much.
greater, yeah.
so much better flavor. And it's really worth keeping, and they do last quite a while in the refrigerator.
Most of them will last. Your basil and your tarragon, or tarragon will last longer than your basil. Your basil is the one that's not gonna last very long.
Right, because it's really a leaf. I mean,
And
it's
it,
leafy.
yeah, as long as it's dry, so that's another piece to it. If there's moisture in your little package, that's what then creates the leaves to start turning.
Got it. Any questions out there? Let me check.
So if you can see,
How are
we're
you guys
starting.
doing? How are you guys doing with the, are you caught up? Everybody got their soup on?
Hand over here.
Hey.
The update.
The update? You
You
know,
know, wait a minute. I'm kind of semi-retired, and everyone on the golf course says, "What's up with the real estate market?" There
so
you go.
I feel like the typical market right now. Homes are selling 60 to
Typical.
120
So how
days.
many of you guys know what typical means?
Well, that's what we're talking about. We're going
Right.
to talk about that. Your home is not going to sell in 5 minutes, and it's not going to sell for
5
over
minutes.
list price like it used to. And that's where. So what's interesting is that what separates us, I think, from other agents out there is that we've been in the market to see ups and downs and transitions, 2005, and all the changes that we've seen. Agents that have only been in the market for the past 5 years have no idea what's happening right now. Is all as they know is can't figure out how to sell a house, what to do with the property, and how to even drive people through when there's no buyers out there. That's what they think. But we are different based on our years of experience, and we want to make sure that we bring that to all of our clients.
But what does that mean? So it's interesting. Today I got I don't know, the DM or a message from one of my clients, one of my good guys that I coach in Orlando, Florida. Market's good. Well, we got hurricanes, bad insurance, right?
Or or
And-
can't get insurance.
Well, hard to get insurance and time on market. And he's like, "What do you guys do to sell your houses?" And I talked to Beth, and the first thing she said, "Price. Don't let anyone do anything other than price it correctly, right?"
Well, sometimes pricing it correctly isn't going to yield you the results either because
That's just the starting point.
it's just a starting point. What the market shows you that you should list at is where we might start. But what the buyers say in today's market is they might pay less for it than what the other people have sold for.
Right.
And I feel like that's the hard part for our sellers is understanding that they might have to sell for less than people, their neighbors or friends had sold for before.
Wait a minute, hold on. Before they went up 20%, 20%, right? Market went crazy.
And we're just down below that,
Yeah,
you know,
just below crazy.
absolutely.
All right, so if you don't need to sell, don't sell.
Or hold on to it and buy something else
Right, right.
and keep the low interest rate. Because to me,
Yeah,
saving that
leverage it.
interest rate at your 3% is special.
Yeah.
We're not going to be there again for a long time, so I would definitely keep
Probably
that.
forever.
Yeah.
So if you want to consult with Beth, she'll tell you how it works. Let's get cooking. All right, he's washing his hands as always.
Making sure everything is good to go. We've got our soup bubbling over here.
Oh, it's so,
And now it's
so
time to make our-
amazing. If we could only put an amazing smell on the internet.
That would be great.
All right,
Okay,
so
what
I
do we
just
got- what do we
added
got?
about a cup and a half of water.
Okay. And
Because
what
I
made you
could-
Decide, think that you need to add water.
I could tell already that it's starting to thicken and we're gonna need it, right?
Okay.
We
So
don't
take a
want
look
it,
at yours.
we don't want it to be pasty. We want it to be loose like such.
Right,
You can still see that there's a little bit of body there, right?
right,
So now that we kind of cooled it down, it's gonna have to come back up to temperature. But remember, we're not wanting to cook the potatoes in a paste-like liquid. We want it to cook it in this broth-like
Right.
liquid. And then as they cook, it'll thicken up naturally. And then that's when we'll be able to finish with our cream. I put some butter in the back there. What that's gonna do is that's gonna be a little bit of butter, a little bit of honey.
butter and honey, those are two good things with biscuits. It just sounds good.
We're gonna take some fresh parsley.
All right. So you're chopping up that parsley?
Yeah, I'm gonna mince this up real fine.
Anyone getting closer on their soup? You guys want to share any of your photos?
That's gonna go into our honey butter. Turn that
Ooh,
guy on-
honey butter.
Turn that guy on
Okay.
real low. There it is. Okay,
All right.
now,
Now it's time.
ready to
for-
roll out
Yeah,
some biscuits.
look at this. This is the fun part.
A little spray here. Wow. All I'm doing is just getting my hands floured, so that way it's not so.
Icky.
Mm-hmm. And you can roll it out. I'm just gonna pat it down because it looks like it's gonna get to be a pretty good consistency here.
So Chad, talk about made this, then what?
For,
Biscuits, but it's strong breakfast for kids.
biscuits and gravy, if that's what you're wanting to do, that's pretty simple. They would eat this up. Yeah, I mean, these ones, since we've added the cheddar cheese, especially that Irish cheddar cheese, gonna be a little difficult for a breakfast, so to speak. You could still get away with it and do a sausage gravy on that. I would add like a little bit of that fresh thyme into that gravy as well to keep it more savory.
Yeah.
So then that way that would help with masking that flavor. Well, now we can cut holes or squares, however you like. I was gonna show you another kitchen hack, but
Are you gonna give us, did you bring those cups for that?
no, that was to put the soup in.
Oh,
A lid, any type of lid that's, you
Oh.
want to be the big enough, right? So typically, I was thinking that,
oh, these little guys?
that
Is
one's
that too
gonna,
big?
kind of big.
Kind of big? Okay.
So what?
Okay.
So if you had anything that's deep, right,
Like
big
this
enough
little-
that can cut through there.
That's, my other
No,
little ones
that
are
one,
gone.
yeah.
Yeah, we're using them.
So what we're gonna do though? Stir this.
How much is this? Is that right size?
In my kitchen, let's try it out.
That's a good size. That works. We use the Ryderly team cup.
So when you do biscuits and you're baking them, you want to set them up in like a honeycomb pattern. So that way they touch each other because you don't want the sides to get overcooked, right?
Okay, interesting.
So
Do they touch each other or do they fluff up and touch each other?
you want to put them like this, so they're touching each other when you go to put them into the oven.
Okay. I think quite a few.
Yeah. And they don't have to be squares. You can make them octagons, rectangles. You can make them squares, circles, triangles. It all depends on what you're wanting to do with the biscuit.
We've got our melted butter over here. Do you want me to turn that down?
Yeah, I turned it, it's all the way on low as possible.
Okay.
So then all these end pieces, I'm just gonna put back together. Slightly knead it. We got a question here, comment?
Oh, they look great.
Biscuits look great.
I
Thank
know, don't they look good?
Yeah.
Anybody have theirs in the oven yet?
So,
I'm just really surprised at how many these made. Quite a bit for that recipe. Definitely leftovers for the kid,
yeah, absolutely. If you don't eat them all tonight.
right? Well, that too. They are good.
This one will just hand form. So you want it, like I said, honeycomb. Keep them
Perfect.
together tight
Got
and
it. Did you get
uniform.
that?
Yep,
Perfect.
those can go in the
Ready in
oven.
the
They're
oven.
ready in the oven. Set a timer.
Get some time on the floor.
Perfect. We got any questions out there? How's everyone working so far?
No questions? Anybody done cooking? Everybody caught up? How's your soup coming along?
We're gonna add some of this garlic powder into our butter. See how that soup's thickening it up there?
Oh, absolutely.
Any questions, any comments?
Let's show us some pictures, how your soup is looking. Show us a picture of your biscuits. Anybody pulling those out of the oven yet? What was the time you put on the oven?
10 minutes.
10 minutes on the timer for the oven.
Yep, we'll check that and see how they look.
While everybody's kind of cooking along, don't forget to reach out to us if you want an updated assessment on your property to let us know what your home is worth. We'd love to help you with that, just so you know what's happening in the market surrounding your property. Because sometimes, you can't tell, especially if there's other homes sitting on the market. And I know we have a lot of Trilogy folks here joining us tonight, and there's a lot of homes on the market in there, so it's hard to see what's going on. And we're happy to help you navigate through that as well. And a shout out to the builder agents that are on. We have Tom Lacker, Pat McGuire. So thank you guys for joining. Oh my gosh, look at someone shared a photo, everybody.
Look at those
Those look
biscuits.
delicious.
Those look nice.
Wow, those look amazing. I'm excited for that to
Pillsbury
happen.
would be proud.
Now, I love that they put theirs in a cast iron skillet.
So it's
That's
what we
great.
want to do, right? And the reason being is how they're gonna cook.
Right,
And
so
the
it's gonna
reason
be
we
even.
sheet pan is because we gotta make a lot more, right?
Got it.
But yeah, the way that they cook, right? So they'll cook where as that evenly distributed heat then rolls around to the top. So
Mhm.
that cast iron has such a huge impact to the end results of things.
Wow, those
As
are
have
great.
you seen before, right? So
Thank you for
providing those
sharing that.
nice golden brown biscuits.
Oh, and we have additional comments? Let's see, I missed it. Is the butter for the biscuits?
The butter is
Wow,
for the
great job with
biscuit,
those
yep.
biscuits. Yep.
Yep,
The
so
butter
we
is
just
for the
did that honey
biscuits.
butter so that way we can brush them onto the biscuits.
Yeah, bro. Wow,
Or
honey
like that.
butter on biscuits? That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, and a savory biscuit too, right? So that's sweet and
Right.
savory. It allows you to really maximize that taste buds.
So would this be the point if I wanted to put my soup in a crock pot and kind of set it and forget it? Do I do it or do I? Oh, wait,
No, you can do it. Kind of starting to do its thing. As it slowly goes in the crock pot, it'll continue to thicken up. Also, as the potatoes are cooking, the broth is gonna thicken up as well.
now do you put it in hot? Is it hot already when you put it in or you put it in when it's cold in the crock pot?
I would put it in right now on hot and just let it ride,
Okay,
right? So you're talking on low for an hour, maybe two. Go, you put it in your crock pot, go run your errands and no big deal,
Got
right?
it.
So it's pretty easy. But if that's what you want to do, you know what I
Right.
mean? There's some soups that you could make where you just dump it all in the crock pot and walk away and let it do its own thing, and it'll still end up with a fairly good result. The difference between the crock pot soup process and this is the saute piece. So the
Right.
saute piece is a very important part of developing that flavor
Yeah,
profile
I
for
can
our
see that.
soup, so.
so that an early stage is the most critical and then the rest is just cooking.
Correct. These guys. Ooh, those are almost ready. Almost ready. So if that's there, let's go ahead and get some of our fresh parsley and we'll put that into our soup as well.
There's some comments? No. No one. Good. Oh, finally caught up. Oh, who was behind?
All right, so we're just.
Oh,
we're
ours are
just gonna
coming
take a
together.
peek.
Gonna be sticky?
Oh, they're doing good.
So it looks like Sherry just caught up. Is anyone else behind? Need some help? Guidance? Tell us how we can help you guys get caught up.
Get some fresh parsley for our soup.
Alright.
So these were the knives that I was telling you about, Beth.
That's great.
That I-
Tell us why they're different.
So this is a Japanese steel. It's been forged. This is like a traditional Japanese vegetable knife. This would be more of like a chef knife style. See how it's similar? This one's kind of square as well and then turns in so that way you can utilize that tip in a different aspect. So your vegetable, this is more of a motion like this,
Okay,
as opposed to this one's more of a motion like this, right?
perfect sense.
I picked these up. Each knife was roughly, I got 8 knives for 88 bucks, so you're talking 10 bucks a knife.
That's
Screaming
really
deal.
affordable.
It's the weight balance of that right there, the handle to the blade. Huge. It's heavy weight, so sometimes you think, oh, it's too heavy, but when you're slicing, what a world of difference it is letting the knife do the work, right?
Awesome.
So that's a big piece that you want to think about when you're purchasing knives.
So where did you get them they were pretty affordable?
Oh, I found them on Temu.
Oh, awesome.
True story. I says, well, let's see what these are like. So I ordered a set of 3. It was this knife is what I wanted specifically. And they didn't send this one. They sent me a butcher's knife instead of this
Oh.
one. So then they sent me this one. And I said, ooh, these are nice. I'm gonna try to find other ones. So then I found a whole set for, like I said, $80.
Interesting.
Someone asked what brand is it?
It's who's?
It's always good when the price is right.
When the price is right, that's right. Bob Barker would be proud.
You know, you don't always have to buy the most expensive.
Sometimes the most expensive aren't even the good ones anyway, right?
That's true. So you can definitely see the difference. This is really thickening up a lot.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a potato cooking.
So now we're
What do you
gonna,
have there? Oh,
now we're gonna add our heavy cream.
that's the non-caloric item.
You mean the high calorie deliciousness? That's would be it, yes. If you're referring to extra love, then that is exactly
Extra
what we
love.
put in there.
Okay. Well, you could just see that transition
Yeah,
to the cream-based soup right away.
there we go. So as that simmers up, timer's coming up right now.
And again, the trick is not putting that cream in too early.
Right. These guys. Still got a little dough here, so we're gonna go, shoot, those are almost ready. I'm gonna give them a nice little spin. We're gonna go back in, we're
You
gonna go
can
for
see the
3
color
minutes.
coming a little bit on the
Yeah,
top.
starting to come out there. Okay. We're gonna turn this up just for a moment. What it is we're gonna bring the heat back up to
Okay.
heat up that cream. We don't want it to boil though. So all we're gonna do is just keep an eye on it. We're gonna rapidly bring it there, turn it back down, because we got biscuits in the oven for 3 more minutes. We want this to simmer up just a little bit longer,
Perfect.
and then we'll be ready to roll.
Is anybody else? It's done. I saw the biscuit on the screen. Anybody else have their soup ready, their potatoes ready? Great. Nice, love that.
Give it a taste and see where we're at. If we need to add any salt and pepper. Gonna be hot, so be careful.
Don't burn your mouth. Oh, that's so good.
Some salt and pepper.
Yeah, I think you need both.
Mhm.
Really good. So you're saying, why become a chef?
Why do I do what I do?
Yes. Why do you enjoy being a chef?
I enjoy being a chef because I get to bring people together and watch their taste buds dance. Okay. So when I first fell into it was bringing people together, right? Everyone comes together at the table, you know?
Very true.
That tradition's kind of gone by the wayside due to our society these days, but sitting down, enjoying each other's company, enjoying a meal. As the time went on, I started to get the passion for the ingredients
Mhm.
and how to blend those flavors together. So when some of my ideas come out, it's off the wall, like what in the world are you thinking, right? Like,
How do you
why
pair
would you
with
put cherry chutney on fish? I don't know, because it could be delicious. Playing with that and allowing my craft to show through by taking things and you'd be like, I don't see that, or no, that's not gonna be good at all.
Right.
And then putting it in making a dish. Wow, that was really good. So a dish is, it consists of a protein, a starch, a vegetable, and some type of sauce, right? So all these different ingredients and flavors, but when you put them all together as one, what a world of difference it is, and how when you eat them and you get a bite of each individual little dish or ingredient of that dish pops out. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that, right? So that's why I do what I do, or love to do what I do.
I think you said it right. Food is sort of the center around people gathering together,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
we all
Absolutely, right?
love and enjoy.
Ooh, almost.
Oh, just-
Almost, it's almost. Okay, so this guy, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a tiny bit of cornstarch. Because it's a little too loose for me, right? We want to tighten it up
All right.
just a touch.
What is take the straw out? So,
What?
or make it perfect.
So the question is, what's the difference to sell a dish? What makes it perfect, right? Well, in the chef would be when he's happy with it. Because a
When the
lot of
chef-
people could be happy with it, but if he's not happy with it, then it's not there yet, right?
So it's not quite perfect. You want to make sure that you have all the correct flavors, everything is cooked to perfection.
Absolutely.
you could have that there.
Absolutely. So being critical of yourself as a chef, that's a big piece. I'm always picking it apart. It's not there yet. It wasn't enough. It needed this. It should have done that, so it's constant when I'm cooking because that's what I'm looking for. So all I'm doing right here is making a little slurry, which is just cornstarch and water. And what this is a fast-acting thickening agent. What I did is about a tablespoon of cornstarch to a little bit of water. So you're about to see what this does as soon as I add it into here. You want to stir when you're adding your cornstarch.
And you're slowly putting it in.
Mm-hmm. And a little, so you can already see the body changed already. It means it tightened up. See? So once you let this go, once you put it in our cornstarch, you're going to want to let it simmer for just a couple minutes because you want to cook out that cornstarch flavor. So you can see right away.
So by cooking it, you'll get rid of
Yep.
that flavor of
Yeah,
that?
because when you dump it in there, then it masks all the other flavors.
Right.
But then as you reduce, or just to cook it a little bit, it's just usually a couple minutes for that to happen. So now you can see the body start to really develop there and it to be a nice, thick, creamy, lucky leprechaun's pot of gold. Oh, these biscuits, while that does its thing.
Oh, those look delicious. You can even see a little bit of the cheese on the side.
Yeah. So now, let's take our. You have to measure when you bake because if it's too much of one ingredient or not enough of another one, it's precise. Baking is science and cooking is playing with food.
Simply put.
Yeah.
Boy, that really is going to add a lot to the top of that.
How's everyone doing? Everyone coming along? Did anyone else have to tighten up their a little bit? Anyone have to thin it up? Sometimes you'll have to. Tightening it up would be making it thicker. Thinning it out would be adding more broth or milk or water to make it thinner,
Right.
more runny.
And the cornstarch made it thicker.
Right.
All right. I think we're ready to plate up. Are you guys ready to plate up and have?
So where those potatoes sit right on.
Perfect.
So whether you're having a cup or a bowl of soup, you can have it with a sandwich, you can have it with a salad, or you can have it as an entree. Take a little bit more of our cheese blend here. I'm gonna go
Oh, I like that as a,
top. Bacon Crispies. To thicken the potato or bean soup, you usually use the immersion blender. So if you wanted to blend up the potato in this, or like with your beans, that will thicken it as well. So yeah, that is a good one to do. So if we
Okay.
wanted to blend it all, we're wanting to keep the potatoes nice and chunky for this soup.
instead of having it
And-
blended.
Yeah, instead of having it blended. So that is a good way to do it. Beans are also another thickening agent. They're high in starch. So when you cook them and the starch is released, it thickens the liquids that they're cooking. So.
And there's a lot of soups with beans in it. I always love the plating. It looks so good.
And here you would have
2 options.
our lucky Leprechaun pot of gold with our Irish cheddar biscuits with a nice honey butter and our mint julep there. Don't forget to join us next month on April 24th for chicken parmesan with a rustic marinara sauce and broiled zucchini steaks. That was a request.
Recommendation from
So
you
thank you
guys.
for such a great request. Please put the requests in the chat. We take them in, we look at them, we want to
Absolutely.
make sure we're able to capture the things you want to learn how to make.
Absolutely. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. It's been our pleasure. Enjoy your dinner and have a great evening.
So long.
See you next month.